All right, welcome to week nine, H Radio 123's Part Timers, where we are continuing with creating content. Obviously, once again, just to point it out that it is relevant to your Summit of One assessment that was briefed last week. Please don't forget to go through the brief video that I've also recorded. It should be up on Core Campus by now. And again, just make sure that you are in contact so that you don't lose, I say, momentum and don't lose direction, right? So that you can do well, obviously, in your summative and obviously in the subject. And I'd love to obviously see you next year for Radio 2. Okay, so H Radio 123 part timers creating content 4 of 14 from Next Level Radio, Cullinan and Nash's book, chapter 4, page 120 to 129. So both lectures today are quite short, okay? But what I want to do in addition to the theoretics is be able to go through some, so I'm going to go to Iona and just play, obviously three uploaded links or content pieces from myself, from Nicole de Silva, and from Kula, we are all on 919, and we can start talking about those different links as well. But also so again, because the two lectures, so lesson 19 and lesson 20, are all about the same thing about the hook and the payoff and the crumbs, etc., right? So I'm going to split that over, and the practical aspect of that for, I say for context, is going to be looking at that snap prep example that I've been using. And I referenced one example or one content piece that we created last week, right? And that was about, what was it about? It was, commitment, right? About commitment that we can use and look at two more examples, right? So that you have a good understanding how to approach this. All right, let's get into the lesson then. I think you might recall the Mexican on the bicycle, let's say analogy, right? And what was the bicycle, the Mexican on the bicycle analogy all about? Well, if you can just look at this picture, and I'm going over the text just so you can see a little clearer. Is it looks like a little Mexican hat there? Here's the one wheel. Here's the other wheel. What is your obligation to that particular listener? What is the thought process, the context of that particular link, and then did you fulfill that obligation to that listener? So, for example, an obligation could be informing them about what is coming up on the drive show, or what is this current station promo that is happening, right? That is your obligation over there. How do you make that come alive? Do you give them the correct information about the station activation or promotion that's happening, and then move out there and go and assess, like, or not, like, did you reach obviously a good conclusive payoff and blackout for that particular link, right? And did you actually fulfill? Did you, if you can compare the before and after, right? Do they all check? Do they both check the correct boxes, right? So that is the construction of your link. Um, and again, it's a very simple, but that's how we want to start. Very simple approach to how to build a thought process, right? And an approach. So the five rules of storytelling, again, just to kind of revise what we know so far. The presenter should know that applying the Mexican on the bicycle, again, analogy is about one thought per link. So one thought means, like, I want to promote, let's say, like I mentioned before, a station promo, a competition. And I don't want to complicate that by talking about an artist or talking about celebrities as well, or running an interview with a musician at the same time that I'm doing that as well. So we don't want to complicate things per link. We want to make it stand on its own, and obviously the information must be cohesive, coherent, and then obviously the listener must be able to consume that, process that, and then feel as though they've got what they needed out of that particular piece, right? So the best way to do this, once again, is the five rules of storytelling. And again, we'll break it down with examples, but go in a little bit more detail with these: the hook, the crumbs, the dress up, the payoff, and the blackout, right? So, just again, to kind of remember what these, and again, we're going to look at these now in different aspects, right? With the hook, the presenter starts by preparing the hook, which is the most important part of the link. How are we going to grab their attention, grab that listener's attention in the first, let's say, 7 to 14 seconds? Theoretically, okay, we're going to stick to kind of that. And if you go a little bit over, it's not. I mean, it's not a train smash, right? As long as you're not moving off to the crumbs section, and considering that part of your hook. Again, we spoke about originality in terms of the way that we can reconstruct the idea and the approach to the hook and the rest of this particular structure, right? Again, the crumbs to dress up. We can do that in many different ways to grab their attention. And But the main thing is to grab their attention. Don't just say, now we're going to start talking about soccer, right? Um, and again, I'm just going to be drinking water as I normally do. Say yesterday's game or this morning, like if you are up at 3 o'clock in the morning watching the FA Cup, you know as well as I do, because I was there, that both of us had to call up like our GP to give us a doctor, to a cardiothoracic surgeon, to make sure that I could check myself in for what I consider to be a heart attack, just to be a little bit over dramatic there. So maybe the game went well, maybe the game went really badly, maybe it was a really close win for the two teams, whoever was playing, right? And then we would go and speak about that within a little bit more context in the crumbs, right? So again, getting their attention, right, with something original and something captivating. Presenter probably has around 8 seconds to grab a listener's attention when getting into a link. So due to people's obviously shrinking attention spans, and again, just for dramatic engagement, that's good entertainment, right? So to really just stress that importance of why the hook is so pivotal, and again, not more important than the rest of what you're going to do, but it is important, right? Some research tells us that 8 seconds is actually sometimes too long. So, research from Spotify has shown that roughly 24%, and I think this is something that we covered in the before lesson, or I might be confusing this for second year, so do excuse me. Of songs are skipped within 5 seconds, 29 seconds after 10 seconds, 35 seconds after 30 seconds, and 49 seconds before the end of that particular song. Please, once again, I think we have covered this before, that we can't apply exactly how we consume music, for example, how we engage, or we when I say engage, we obviously walk through and use Spotify in comparison to how someone consumes radio. It's a little bit, for me, it's a little bit silly, right? Because it's two completely different mediums, two different complete mindsets for the listener. They're expecting something completely different when they are listening to either one or consuming either one of the mediums. But okay, but like I say, simplicity's sake, right? This I'm sure we have looked at before. This is why I'm going to kind of just go through this particular part quite quickly. Because with the hook, especially with the last lesson, we did focus very heavily on the hook. We did speak about the YouTube Insights team that created. They released an article that was titled "The First 5 Seconds of Creating Your YouTube Ads That Break Through the Skippable World." Right, of being able to captivate that particular person. Actually, watch that advert. We know we all want to just see the actual YouTube video, and we are sometimes forced to watch it. But they play normally about 10 seconds. Maybe that was a good enough ad to get your attention, right? That's that particular 10 seconds. So if you use the research that we want to apply, we want to apply that to radio when we do that particular hook. Okay. And if you remember, in the last lecture, we specifically went through um, like these 2 pages in your book, right? Okay, that spoke about original ways. Excuse me, that's not right. Okay, to help construct that particular book. Okay, let me just go back. So let's get into what a little bit more fresh in terms of this particular lesson. Okay, so let's look at the crumbs now. So the next part of that particular link, the body of the link is referred to as the crumbs, but it's only part of the body because the dress up does come afterwards as well, right? It's similar to if you can think of the very iconic story of Hansel and Gretel, who left breadcrumbs as they went to the witch's candy house or whatever it may be to find their way back home. Um, and then what? Yeah, did the crow eat them? I don't know. Maybe I watched the dark version of it anyway. But I did watch. Yeah, I just want to say action. Never mind. That's my life. That movie was actually really good. Anyway, but they left breadcrumbs to find their way back home, right? And so you must kind of think of that like we drop breadcrumbs, like it's little tidbits of information that give us good context, and that's the best way of explaining this particular concept. Okay, so presenter must keep dropping mini payoffs. So little twists and turns in the story. Don't be vague. Don't be like you're creating this mystery drama. It's not about that, right? But you should drop those crumbs to have a good connection between the dress up, which is the mass body of your link itself, and the hook, the statement that you just made. Tell us a little bit more about that. That's what we really want to know. So here are the main reasons why listeners lose interest in links or stories in the middle phase of the link. You're trying too hard, one, to make listeners laugh. And whenever you try to do something, I'm saying try too hard to do something, you normally don't really know how to do it, and it's normally not maybe the right time for it, and maybe you're not reading the room correctly, right? So a 10 to 1, you don't have the correct skill set to also do that too. Too many phone calls or voice notes are being put into that particular part of the link, right? And so it distracts attention, but you're also confusing different elements, right? So you are allowed, I mean, you must be putting phone calls, you must be doing voice notes, right? But it needs to be separated, I mean, segmented across, let's say, different links for what you do on air. So link one, link two, link three, that all have to do with the same piece of content, right? Too many stories or topics. So maybe researching too much and providing too many facts, all right, and too many perspectives can also be confusing to the listener. Okay, so the crumbs always structure your listener interaction in every link. So use your second strongest piece first, and this is the same layout. Well, actually, not the same layout. Not now. No, no, I'm lying to you, right? Um, we have a certain layout when we do demos as well. With first link or the first link that you include on a demo always needs to be the strongest. The second one is actually the third strongest. Second one, the third one is the second strongest, and the fourth is the fourth strongest, right? But here there's a little bit of a so there's madness. There's method in madness to this. So just listen out. Okay. So when you use your second strongest piece first, whereafter you might move on to your weakest of the three and end with the strongest interaction, right? It's a good idea to end the link completely after your last interaction, right? Again, so if we look at this kind of layout there, first piece should be strongest, right? Second strongest. Weakest of the three does not mean it has to be weak. Please don't misinterpret this here. Like if it's weak, it's strong, but it's the third strongest of these particular elements of the crumbs here. Okay, the rule of thumb is when the listener says goodbye, the link is over. Sticking to this usually forces a presenter to end on a high and leave a link at its peak, right? So, in particular, when we are interacting with, let's say, a listener, right? Don't, like, for example, a good example is again placing don't place the strongest listener and the strongest voice note first. Like you need to build up to it, and rather end on a high. For example, if we let's say focusing on just the interactions of the piece that you currently are doing, right? Not excuse me. Sure. Let me just take some order. Okay, okay. All right. So don't get the theoretics mixed up there. Let's talk more about the crumbs, right? Talk radio is slightly different. Obviously, we know it's obviously predominantly talk. It's like what is it, 90% talk, and the rest of it is adverts, right? Adverts and news. Well, I said 90%, 80% of it, right? Presenters and producers should only be concerned with the value of every interaction that they do actually have. So we do have the monologue, but that does happen. That does form a very strong part and a very important, relevant part, right, to any particular piece on talk radio. But, right, very soon enough, you'll have an interview that's going to be happening, a phoner that's going to be happening. People are going to be sending again interactions, voice notes, text, or calling in directly, right? That you will be stringing along that particular piece through interaction, right? So every link should focus on one main story, theme, or topic, right? So when we say link, we're talking about like a complete piece, okay, that might be spread over three links, right? So three links still dealing with the same topic, still dealing with the same story, but different, obviously, dimensions or different perspectives, different elements, right? That will make up a great, well-bodied link, full-bodied link, right? Okay, so there'll be cases, especially in talk radio or very busy commercial music shows, where the show needs to move from one topic to the next in one link. And this is called a multi-break link. Very dangerous, right? Because again, what I said to you before is about rather like what's smarter, right? Is to be able to give a short break. So even if you have to play like a station promo, and then or even play an ID of a station of the station, and then move to the next thought process in that particular long like that multi-break link itself, rather make it very clear that the distinction is there. Okay. Okay. So here are four tips that can help present a master the dropping of of clever crumbs. Get the listeners to buy in. So, like I say, a captivating story, an interesting story, like clear statements that are being made. Make it very short, sharp, and simple. Once again, so they can again process that information and move on to the dress up of that particular link. So paint a picture and use emotive language, as we always say throughout all the radio that you do. You got to choose and select that the obviously the wording quite correctly. You don't have to be so cognizant of it. But the thing is that the best way to know how to speak emotively is one obviously from the heart, to make it sound all sweet and puffy, whatever it is. But it really is like you're speaking from your soul, right? Which puts a lot of emphasis in you wanting to express yourself in the correct way. And you'll find those words, the more you do practice speaking with expression, right? You're going to find that you're going to use emotive language to connect to that particular listener, right? So remember to paint a picture. Try to, if you want to try and practice, try to tell a couple of stories to friends and family and see whether they get bored, right? See whether or not they like the story, they enjoy it. You can see it in the expression in their faces, like whether they ask any questions because they are engaged and they are like, oh, I'm so interested and invested, right? Um, and see how you do, and then go back, kind of like review that and see how you can do better in the next one, right? Speak only in the active voice, never in the passive voice. So we want to be able to again kind of dominate that present. We are present. We want to talk in the now, and again, that doesn't mean we can't talk about things that didn't or that did happen in the past. But the thing is, it's that active grasp on, again, today is today and now is now within a show. And I'm talking to you from me. So let's talk in that manner. Okay. All right. And then we go to the payoff, right? And we'll look at, let's say, the blackout probably in the next lecture, right? So I hope that you do understand the crumbs there, and that you will see a better understanding for it when we are looking at example. Again, when I say the example, it's the work activity that I'm doing across all the classes. They're all adding their own obviously input to it. So and then obviously I clean up and construct what looks good, right? So you'll understand the payoff, right, is what do we get out of this particular link? Another tool to use to help you plan and execute a link is called the execution rule of four from Noah Charney, right? Or Charney. A sitcom and a TV writer proposes the following template, which is referenced from Lane. Okay, the teaser, which is presenting the character and the obstacle, the trouble, and please, I understand there's so many methodologies that we're giving you, but just consider it maybe this way, right? The trouble, presenting some conflict or allowing for a desire to arise, right? Okay. The muddle, so where the initial strategy leads to a new obstacle, right? We give that perspective, we give some some statements. We provide some statements, some commentary that allows you to be like, okay, maybe I can think of this problem further. I see that there is a light at the end of this tunnel. I know which way I'm going with this. I'm saying as a listener, right? And again, it's about taking them along a journey, right? The triumph or the failure, the moment in which the strategy is successful or unsuccessful, and the kicker, the ending in which the changes took place as a result, as a result, are then depicted, right? So um, let's look when preparing for a link. Start the following questions, right? What is the payoff for the listener, right? What is the payoff? What are they getting out of this particular this particular experience with you, right? What's the payoff, as we said there? Is it a question that they can engage with? Is it a part of it's a line of questioning, I suppose, in an interview as well. If it's a standalone one that doesn't require any interaction, right? Do they get to go to a bank, for example, and ask about the I don't know, like I don't really know much about banking, but I suppose like I don't know the interest that you do get on a specific I don't know like a specific account that you open up, right? And how much money do you need or whatever it is because you heard, let's say, an interview with ABSA on the next. They go and they get something out of it, the payoff. What do we get? How can we write it in order to engage listeners within 10 or 8 seconds? And what are our views on the topic? What can we do to add any more layers to that particular payoff? All right. So again, are we? My thing is again a combination of all this stuff. You don't just ask one question; it doesn't make any sense. You want to be able to elaborate a train of thought, right? So when I do ask you, let's say my first rhetorical question or my direct question to you, I'm going to say, let me take you through the thought process of this. Try to put you in a situation of, is it this? Is it that? Have you ever really sat back and thought about those first 10 seconds? When you are going on a blind date. And the question might be like, what was your first words, or what do you think the first things should be spoken about on a blind date, right? And you understand, I'm going to build around that. Okay, and this is just flying from the what is it? Is it? It's not the seat of my pants, right? Seam of my pants. Okay. Anyway, all right. So let us have a look. I hope you understood that. Okay, so like I said, very short lesson there. But what I do want to do, just give me a second, yeah. Just want to go to Iona. Give me a second. I'm going to switch to that in just a moment. Okay. All right. Switch now. Share the screen. Sound is shared. Yeah, here we are. Okay. Hang on here. Here we go. Yeah. Thanks, PC. Rude. Okay, let's see what let's look at one of the links from Kula. And please, as you can see, PC is just deciding to take a little bit more time. Did she post anything? No, she did post something. There we go. All right, just a cool 7-minute link with Kula, a stateside connection with Kula. That's the name of the show. Marianne Postma. Just look at a little bit of the synopsis here, right? So she's an owner of the Cafe Calabash and Catering and Hadida Box and Virginia-based South African. Marianne Postma joins us on the SA Connect to distinguish or discuss bringing SA food to the events festivals of the USA. Let's have a listen. Oh yeah, and hold on. And the thing is, I want you to be able to see whether you can identify the hook, the crumbs, the payoff, because this is what we have covered so far. And maybe you can identify what the dress up actually is, which is that middle big part, right? Yeah.
Texas sky. The Stateside Connection with Kula.
Joining us on 919 this afternoon from Northern Virginia, very close to DC, is Marianne Postma. Welcome to 919 and thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thanks, Kula, for having us. We're so excited to be here.
Perfect. Well, you've got a couple of businesses on the go here, so I thought we would speak about Cafe Calabash and Catering first. Did you have a food background in South Africa?
You know, it's funny because I've always worked in restaurants and hotels and such, but I think it really started for me over here in America because you miss things. You miss the bunny chow, you miss the samosas, you know, you get variations of things here, but not the same as what we used to. So I just started tinkering around in the kitchen and I realized, hey, I'm not actually bad at this.
Okay, so how long has Cafe Calabash and Catering been going then?
Just over 2 years now.
And you had mentioned that you serve South African street food at events and festivals. Are they geared mostly towards South Africans, or are you trying to bring in the American market as well?
So I also host our own festivals, and the most recent one was a South African curry versus USA chili for that exact reason. I was trying to integrate a little bit more of the Americans into our culture and vice versa, because, you know, my significant other is American. He loves South African food, but he would never have known about it until he met me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we've been trying to do that. And a lot of people are married to either an American or Canadian and so on. It's not typically a South African dual couple. So that was quite good. I mean, the wind was a little bit nightmarish, but most of the time it's South African events, Heritage Day, Freedom Day, that kind of thing. But we are trying to branch it out so that people can sort of appreciate the Gatsby and, you know, the bunny chow and all the good things from home that we do have to offer that can be portion sized to fill the belly, you know.
And what have you found to be your most popular item so far?
You won't believe this, but peri-peri prawns.
Really? Well, I can understand. I mean, they're delicious. And I suppose peri-peri, I know certainly in Texas, you don't get to hear about peri-peri at all. Is it similar in Virginia?
It is, but I think because, and you guys must have a large Mexican contingency in Texas too, but we have a lot of, being so close to DC, it's really a melting pot. So you have a lot of Ethiopian, Indian, that type of thing. So people here are generally more open to spices, and we already have a couple of Nando's in the area, so I think they've already been exposed to peri-peri.
Yes.
And I do use obviously the Robertson peri-peri spices, but plus also Nando's sauces in it. So I think when people see that, they're like, oh man, let's try this. And then I've obviously got to explain how you eat the heads, because of course that's not an American thing.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Nando's, because I know there are plenty of South Africans who have to go to DC to get visas for travel, and the minute you see that Nando's in DC, I think it's like a magnet for anyone heading in that direction.
I think it is, yeah.
Okay, well, let's speak now about your homage to home and heritage, your South African themed subscription and gift box online service, Hrad Box. I love the name. I had to ask, British culture would say homage, Americans say homage. So which do you prefer?
I go homage with the H, and it was all the alliteration because, of course, you know, it all just flowed quite nicely. And the Hrad Box, I was trying to choose a word that first what will South Africans immediately all know what's going on? You know, you can't say Hardy Da to any South African and they won't know what it is. You know what I mean? You can always hear the noise as you say the word. And also the next thing I was thinking about is let's make it as phonetical as possible, because I was aiming for maybe, you know, like a Zulu name or something like that. And I thought, you know, we're in America. I've got to make it that it's pronounceable. And instead of using something that might be a little bit more difficult to say, and Hardy Da is literally like do re mi, it works quite well. But I mean, literally, Hardy Da, you can almost hear it flying over the house right now.
I know, it made an impact on Pharrell Williams when he visited South Africa.
Yes, I was doing a video chat with my mom earlier, which we do sporadically, and she lives in Zululand, so she's still back there, and she was sitting on her stoop. And there goes a bunch of, you know, Hardy Das. And I said to her, I was like, was that a Hardy Da? She went, oh my gosh, how classic is that? Like literally as we were talking.
Well, this subscription and gift box service of yours has just turned 2. What was your motivation behind getting all of that set up? And how complicated was it to be able to source South African items for the various boxes?
Well, so it was a little bit of a trial and error, because obviously I hadn't seen a South African, now you see them everywhere, but I hadn't seen like a Fab Fun, but just for South African treats and curios, you know. So originally we started and we did, you know, import stuff from different sellers and so on, but I found it extremely difficult with customs and so forth. So I ended up sourcing from various already legitimate and set up companies here in the USA, and it just makes my life so much easier. So we used to do curios, but at some point you start running out of ideas. You know, after 2 years of doing a couple thousand boxes, like what do you keep putting in them that we haven't already done? There's only so many beaded key rings you can do, or so many placemats, you know what I mean? So now we've verged away from that, and now we've got a box called the Happies. So it's basically biltong, Oma rusks, you know, all your treats. There'll be sauces in there, spices, etc. So, and our gift box service is a newer idea. We had a few people reach out from South Africa asking if we'd be willing to do an individual style tailor-made box for someone's birthday or someone's, and I was like, you know, of course we would be. That's not a problem. So we handwrite a card, we pop that in there. A lot of, I mean, my entire family is still in South Africa, and obviously my mom's not going to send me a Hardy Da box, so she DHL stuff to me, but it's pricey, and you know, sometimes nothing gets here in time, or it's. I think I sent her a box once and it got there like 4 months later. So this is an easy way for, you know, someone in Johannesburg that has a cousin in Montana or a friend that's got a birthday coming up, easier than Amazon. We give you a list of what we have on hand in stock. You pick what you want. We give you a price. You PayPal. Done. And that's been working out so well so far. You know, well, we just started a couple months ago with the gift boxes. So I'm enjoying that. I'm not putting it on the website yet. It's again, purely because I'm concerned if I don't have that stock in hand, I don't want to make promises we can't keep. You know what I mean?
Sure. So how would people contact you still through the website though to inquire about getting one put together, or would you prefer Facebook inquiries?
So any which way. If people want to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc., or X, whatever it's called now, but the email on the website comes directly to me on my phone, and I usually reply within 20-30 minutes.
You ship to anywhere in the USA?
Everywhere in the USA. We used to do Canada, but it got a bit pricey for the actual receiver, so we don't do Canada anymore. But yeah, every state in the USA.
Perfect. Hit hardydarbox.com and they can email you from the website to find out more.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you so much, Marianne. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Thank you, Kula, for having us on the show. It's been so much fun.
From Dallas to Joburg, it's Kula on 919. Because that's where the Rangers gonna be.
All right. Okay. So one thing I do want to point out, for example, obviously this is an interview. You'll also hear a little bit of Nicole's interview in just a moment. I'm going to try and pick one of our content-based links you'll see now, because I saw what we predominantly do on Iona, Spotify, Apple, is that we actually post our interviews, right, that are served better as podcasts. Sidebar. So with Kula specifically, I wanted to really point out what the payoff was there. Did you see how she says, how can you go, like, how can we get a hold of you? Where are you now? Like, what are your handles? It's a quick payoff, right? I'm saying it's a portion of the payoff as well, closing to obviously the blackout, which is again just signing out, saying bye, thank you so much, were done in that way, right? But also we got to credit the way that she started out. It wasn't exactly that captivating, but what is nice is that you just get straight to the point. Just get straight to the point, especially in an interview. Like just get straight to the like. Give a little bit of if you need to give a little bit of insight or context, sure, go ahead and do that. Again, that forms part of your crumbs aspect, right? But in this case, like it was a lady that provides obviously South African food to the states where Kula is broadcasting from. To obviously this particular show is for those expats that are overseas that got stories to tell, right? That again, we're all South African at the end of the day. We do hashtag love it, right? Okay, but again, kind of notice again, there are three different styles you're obviously going to hear. The Kula style, the Chris style, and then Nicole at the end of the day, right? So let's see who we got up next. I should let that load there for a second. I'm gonna do a little bit of Nicole. Okay, why that actually just loads. Let me just stop the. Oh, okay, there we go. All right. Okay. Let me just pick. Hmm. Anyway, so this is so we'll run two. She's running two features on her show, Future Tech and Grapevine Connect. So let's just take this one. Doesn't really matter, right? Because we are, like I said, just getting a bit idea. We're not going to play the entire thing. It was easy enough to play the seven minutes of Kulas. We'll play the first, let's say about 6-7 minutes here, just so that you can see how Kula begins, not Kula, man, Nicole. Nicole starts off that link with power. Love Nicole. Obviously, we're great friends, have been for a very long time. And she's just such a star. I mean, she's just so awesome. You'll see in just a moment. Let's have a look at the interview and how she decides to construct. Again, trying to take a paper and be like, okay, this part here was the hook. This part here was the crumbs. This here was the payoff. And well, I mean, again, because we haven't really covered the dress up in detail, but the payoff right here for the moment before we get to, let's say, blackouts. All right, let's have a listen. Enjoy.
This is Grapevine Connect, learning from real talk with leaders in their field to help you level up.
It is the Feel Good Drive on 919, and as we do on a Tuesday at 4:20, we do Grapevine Connect. We speak to people that are doing incredible things in business. They have networked themselves into, I'm going to say, a position where they are seen to be more valuable than other people. This is what I'm assuming.
So that's the hook right there. Just to point it out, that's not a bad hook. Just because of the statement that she's made over there. I'm not going to start and stop. Just wanted to point out that's how short a hook can be.
You want to do with networking, right? You want to add value where other people maybe can't. They just do the job. You do the job and you do extra things as well. As always, I am not here by myself. We have Mike Ewan, marketing agency owner, who is here to co-present. Good to have you with us again, Mike.
Good to be here. And I think just to add on to adding value or talking about value, sometimes it's a case of creating value. So you find A and another A and you put them together and they become something amazing. And both of them look to you and think, wow, because of you, that happened.
Nice.
So that's creating value is always key.
Learning every day. Learning every day.
I feel like I taught something.
Today is episode 13 of Grapevine Connect, and we are very excited to have Tumi Pake here. He's a South African entrepreneur. He's also the CEO of the Zenzile Group, and he was also named South African SME Entrepreneur of the Year back in 2017, and is South African ambassador for the Young African Leader Initiative, which is absolutely brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome Tumi Pake. Tumi, thanks so much for joining us. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much. That's a warm welcome.
Listen, the accolades and the things that you're involved in, it's a little bit mind-blowing. And I also want to say you're a young person who's doing all of these things, which is brilliant. Do you think that having a network or knowing people has helped you? And I'm not saying they helped you and you don't know anything, but it maybe was a mentor or someone who pointed you in the right direction that kind of helped you stay the course? Or was it like, no, I've been on this myself from day one?
No, absolutely to your point. I don't think it's actually possible without networking. It is, the fundamental of business, and building social equity and I mean to scale a business to, there's a couple of things that I needed in order to actually have this business run. From attracting investors to finding, suitable partners to actually make this thing work. And all of that is building partnerships. And it comes down to building relationships. Ultimately, you want to do things with people that you like. And it's, in that part, it's not just about money, but it's like, can you actually build a relationship with these people? Is the vision the same? And all of that. So, yeah, it's number one critical.
And I shouldn't imagine a lot of that's done out of what you were doing in banking. So curious.
Wait,
for
there's
me,
a banking background?
Yeah, there's a banking background.
Wow.
So how does a sort of true entrepreneur come out of banking and go into this world? Because you've walked quite a path.
Yeah, I think the getting into the finance space was actually quite interesting. It's because when I finished high school, I started working at a bookstore. And so I had to be in charge of the business section, which I was like, oh my God, what is this? But I think that's where, everything happened, because reading stories of inspirational people and what they've done, it actually gave me, the light that it actually is possible. It's possible. If they can do it, I can try and do it. And I think from there, I was like, what, this is what I want to do. I want to get into finance. And ordinarily at the time, I was very interested in, stockbroking and
Wolf of Wall Street vibes,
yeah, also watching those movies. You're always like sort of mimicking, and I was like, okay, I see myself doing this. But there was always an element of entrepreneurship in me. My grandparents were entrepreneurs, and in that time during apartheid, having a successful business was it was an outlier situation. So I think
what kind of work in business did they have?
So they had so my grandparents started with they were selling vegetables.
Okay.
And they were super savers from vegetables. They then started doing linen and fabric.
Yes.
So at the time, fabric was big
Textile.
because you had like churches that wanted to use the fabric, and that was a go-to place. And from there, they went into butchery, cafe, pharmacist, buying property.
Sure.
So and this is all hard cash. No investment. It's literally just a vision between these two partners, and also partnership. Marrying the right person is also something that I would because
advise, yeah.
because that's what happens. And
Support structure.
yeah, support structure. And they have still now multiple properties, and these are people that did not even have a high education. I think my grandmother, from what I understood, she was grade 2 or 3.
Okay.
That is her education, but she was able to do that.
Wow.
Sure.
So it is possible.
What a legacy to come from, though. Like,
Yes.
I almost want to say, like, you can't mess up. It's like with that pressure.
Yeah, look what
No,
we did
abs-
with nothing.
Yeah, like, listen, you finish high school, you go to varsity.
Yes.
Yeah, so now what you going to do? Because this is what we did with what we had,
Yes.
and now you must...
Yes. It was a
cool.
long time coming. I think at that time I didn't see it, but the older you get, I started going back to that and reflecting how grateful I was. In fact, my grandmother raised me as well. So, unfortunately, she was raising me, but she was not there because she was,
Busy.
working busy. At that time, my grandfather had passed on.
Okay.
But she was looking after, I think there was maybe 10, 15 of us in one household.
Wow.
But it was a big house.
Yeah.
So, big meals, big lunches,
Okay.
everything was just, cousins, aunts, whoever, we all always there. And we had this one woman who was running the ship by herself, taking us to school, everything, So it was brilliant. So it's only when you get older you think about it, you're like, wow, that's an amazing person.
Yeah, you start to sort of look back and
Yeah.
understand what it takes to do that.
Yeah, I know.
And appreciate it as
Yeah,
well.
and appreciate it, definitely. So, I mean, you went from banking into
Just want to stop it right there. So, again, I want you to note the interaction, obviously, between the two hosts, so Nicole and is it Mike? I think it's Mike, right? And then obviously the guest. No talking over one another, natural conversation that is happening there. And again, just quite nice. So moving into a little bit of the crumbs there was about the context, right? What what Tumi is all about, and then moving straight into the interview, which is again like the dress up, the body of the full body of this particular link. All right, let me try and find one from mine. There's a specific one I'm thinking of. Just give me a second here. You can see there's a lot of interviews. This one's pretty cool. So we play Kiss Mary Kill with Jamie Lee Sexton. Just give me a second here. I do like this one here. I just want to see how long. There was one that I was thinking of. Just give me a second here. The On Your Blind Date. Okay. Let's listen to. Uh, mm, uh, okay, let's listen to the On Your Blind Date. So this was where Kanye joined the show. This is the first show. She joined me as a co-host. Let's listen to what this turned out like.
It's the Sunday Revolution on 919. You're listening to 919, where you can feel good anytime. This is Black Coffee and Celeste ready for you. Great music on the way from, yes, Kurt Darren, Yvonne Chaka Chaka, as well as Lebo Matosa. You're with the Sunday Revolution team, Chris and Kanye with you till 3 o'clock today. So Kanye's first Sunday here.
It is.
And I have received a yes response to this quick impromptu blind date, first date. We're gonna have an on-air moment, me and you.
Yeah.
Now there's the hook, just to say, and then we got in.
Would you like some hypothetical wine? Shall I?
Please. Snap, snap. Make it quick.
Right. There's a glass for you. I'll just have some water because I make a terrible drunk and I want to make a great first impression, right?
Right.
Okay, so here's 26 minutes past 11 o'clock. First the mood. Let's get into the mood. Is this doing anything for you, baby?
It's creating such a good...
Okay, my dear. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm great now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. You always have to put your best foot forward. You're not on blind dates, right?
Yeah.
So what I've done, man, I know that I know you. I can see it in your face. You'd
Right.
rather want to be with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
One, you want to hurt me like that. It's okay. But if you could be on another date right now,
Right.
it's because you're here because you're working. I get that. You could be fictional or a real person. Genuinely, who are you putting on in place of my face? You're putting that person. Why? Who would it be?
Who am I putting? All right. I have to quickly think this one through. And can I just say, guys, this is happening right now, so I didn't have to prepare, so these answers are really real. Okay.
Come on. I've got the bod for it. Maybe you're not.
Yeah.
I'm not. Maybe that's what is it? That lid and that thing. But okay, maybe that. But let's go for it.
All right. Let's see. Who are we putting? Okay, so I have a celebrity crush on this guy, and his name is Keith Powers.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Yeah. So
Can
Keith
you
Powers.
give us more? Who's Keith?
Okay, so Keith is an actor, right? So he's acted in quite a number of movies, so yeah. And
What conversations would you have with Keith?
oh, okay, so he needs to be having conversations with me.
Oh, what
right?
what
So he needs
are you saying?
So he needs to be putting his best foot forward, but we would have, just your everyday conversation, so definitely that.
I don't know whether this music should be playing with you and Keith.
Definitely.
Okay, all right. Here's one that I think will definitely show us a bit of your personality, right? I thought very long and hard about this. It's very, very deep, right? If you had to fight between the two, which one would it be? A one horse-sized duck. So one horse-sized duck, right?
Yeah.
You can imagine it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Or 100 duck-sized horses. So who's Kanye?
I think I would definitely fight 100 duck-sized horses. Being that,
How though?
I want to explain this, okay? I am really afraid of anything that flies. All right, so chickens, birds, one of my biggest fears. So now, if it has to come in a larger size,
you can just
I'm gonna faint before the fight even begins.
Oh, so rather maybe. So not the one big one.
Yeah, but little horses. I can stand horses.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Stuck horses.
I can't have my fear.
Why? Why is that? What happened to you as a child?
So this one time, I went to an all-girls boarding school, right? So we used to wear what we call bashes. So bashes are part of our uniform. So it's like the hat that goes with the uniform. And so one day, it's a Sunday, we lined up, we're about to go to church, and out of nowhere, a bird, literally a pigeon, comes, it flies, and it sits on my basher. So the basher is made of like grass type of material.
Sure.
It clinched just so hard into my bash. I think maybe because it was scared as well. Okay. But I'm also scared, you know. So ever since then, me and birds just don't get along. Chickens, it's a story for another day.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you could have one superpower, but it's completely useless. A completely useless, the worst, I'm saying, of, I don't know, importance.
Yeah.
I think useless says it all.
Yeah, useless does. What would it be?
How would that superpower look, and what would your superpower name be?
Ooh.
Superhero, should
My
I say.
superhero name.
Let's start small. Let's go with the power.
Right, let's go with the power. So if I could have a superpower that would be useless, I think it would be being invisible, right? Because, I don't know, I just like being in the moment. Like, you need to recognize that I'm there. So being invisible would just be quite useless for me. You know, I'm not
useless to you.
To me.
So it's not like, for example, the fact that you can create dust on a table.
Because why would you?
You're the dust table. You know,
creator.
Yeah, Wolverine.
Okay. Probably, I think we'd have to go with that one actually. Because that one's a good one.
See, I'm already reading your mind.
You're already reading my mind.
This is how we are connecting.
You know what? I'm
man.
giving you 10 points for that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll make a good first date. Second, third, fourth, I don't really know. I never really had them. Right, Chris and Kanye with you till 3. We're on an on-air blind date.
Yes.
Getting to know one another. If you want to get to know us, 084-221-2919.
Welcome to 9-1.
All right, I'm not going to play the rest there. Obviously, then she asked me questions, etc., and off we go. Right. So there's the link from start to finish. Okay, obviously the body was asking Kanye a bit of questions, and then again, that's very, very clear payoff there, and that very clear blackout. Where I kind of recap what are we doing, what are we doing it for? Obviously, to get us to get to know us a little bit better, get to know Kanye specifically a little bit better. There's a payoff over there, and if you do want to ask us any questions to get to know us a little bit better, then obviously just send us a text or a voice note, etc. Right? Okay, so that is the end of the lesson. So take that off. Don't forget to listen to us 919, right? Okay, and I'll see you for the next one.